I'm Troy Thompson. Over the last 15 years, our family has worked hard to create a place we call the center of the universe. A place where our kids and someday our grandkids can come home to and laugh, have fun, learn how to work, pray, worship God, and be a place to celebrate life with all our friends. After a quarter century in uniform, I put away one set of boots for another, working on our acreage, improving the land, fixing some structures, and building new ones. We say, give back to the community, be useful, keep your hands calloused, and spread the gospel. This is a little place in a little state right in the middle of flyover country, from which cries out a voice in the wilderness to all who might want to listen, learn, and laugh along with us. This is our American dream.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Man, what a week it has been, and particularly what a weekend. So this particular episode is coming out a little later than I normally release the Sunny Side of Life weekly episode. And that is because, well, I was tired, man. I was just tired. My son, our son, Tate, our oldest boy, who's an attorney down in Kansas City, was married this weekend. He got married to our new daughter, Miranda, and it was such a beautiful ceremony. It was such a beautiful event. It was just a wonderful weekend. It's something that we have as a family been waiting for quite a while, and we're so thankful that we have had the opportunity to witness this marriage between our son Tate and our new daughter Miranda. And so just a wonderful time with our family and friends, and of course our new family by marriage and their friends from all over the country there in Kansas City. So congratulations to Tate and Miranda, and we're just so hopeful for their future and so thankful for their health and happiness, and look forward to what the years will bring in that marriage. And so that is what we did. That happened on Saturday. And so it was just a great. We went down on Friday, and we had did the rehearsal, did the groom's dinner. There was a reception, that type of thing afterwards. And then Saturday, we hung around and waited for family and additional friends to come in from all over, did the pictures and everything like that. My son's Tanner was the best man, and he just did a great job like he always does. Tanner's kind of the go-to wedding guy, and has been in, I don't even know how many weddings he's actually been in, but he's been in a lot, and does a great job. He does that best man speech so well, and it was very funny what he told, the stories about his brother and why he's always looked up to him, and the other speeches that were there were great. The father of the bride, Andy, the grandmother of the bride, she did a wonderful job welcoming Tate to the family on her side. And the bridesmaid, maid of honor, they just or the matron of honor, the maid of honor, all of that stuff. So it was really a great weekend, like you would expect it to be. It came off with a hitch. Our sons Jack and Colin looked so handsome. They also stood up for their brother, and man, what a cool thing to see. Just you got all four boys standing up there, and one getting married to a wonderful, beautiful, funny, genuine person that we love so much in Miranda. And so now it's Miranda Thompson, and we've got a new Thompson in the family, and Sunnyside continues to grow. And so just wonderful in so many ways. I did get a chance to also speak as the father of the groom, and I tell you what, at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, I got up and couldn't sleep in a good way. I wasn't, nervous necessarily or anything like that, but I just had I had so many things that we had put together to speak about, and what I wanted to say, and I needed to rehearse it. And of course, this seems to be the month of giving speeches anyway. What with the Republican Party convention that they had, it seems like we saw a lot of speeches last week, and then of course the Democrat Party coming up. They're having their convention here in another couple of weeks, and so we'll see lots of speeches. It just seems like there's speeches going around all of the time. So I was aware of having to make a speech that hopefully hit the mark and expressed what it is that I wanted to share with the audience, but certainly most of all, Tate and Miranda, and wanted to do that in a way that was humorous, but also, made sure that we put our faith in God, and that we look forward to our future together. And so I actually thought that, I was told that we were going to do, that I was also going to do the prayer for this, for the reception. And that didn't happen. I don't blame anybody for that. It's just funny that that's what occurred. And somehow everybody started getting released to go to get through the food line. The food was delicious, amazing. So we just skipped the prayer. And that's fine. I thought, well, maybe they'll wait till everybody's seated again and then I'll do it. But that never came, and it's fine. So I'm going to share it with you, if you don't mind. I will. I'll share the prayer that I would have said before we ate for these two, and both the prayer and the speech, and I'll share the speech with you as well. I'll just read it to you because the recording isn't quite done, and from the wedding video and all of that to use the hard recording. So I'll just read it to you. It'll probably be a little bit better sound quality anyway, to be honest. But both of these situations, they're from the heart. I wrote them, and I feel like I do right now, very happy and sincere and emotional. However, I was super emotional at 6:00 in the morning on Saturday, and so Heidi, I said, you want to hear what I'm going to say? And she said yes, and then I could not get through it without being a little weepy baby, and so she's like, you're going to have to buck up, buddy, and get with it. And so we tried again after breakfast and just kind of walking around a little bit, and said, well, how about 10:00? So we tried at 10:00, and I got through a lot of it, but still was not good. I'd still found some moments where I got a little weak in the voice and everything like that. And then we tried again a little bit later in the afternoon before we went to pictures, and it was better. But again, we had edited some things and cut some things down, and we timed it and different things like that. But then when we got to the actual giving the speech part at that reception at night, I have learned that if I put on my announcer voice, and now I'm almost in a character, like I'm on stage, then I can just deliver the speech and have no problems whatsoever. And that's what happened. So I don't know how this reading is going to go, because I'm not in front of an audience that is looking back and, tinkling their, drinks and making those sounds and all of that. I don't know we'll see. We'll just see. But I'll do it first. Let's talk about, this is the prayer that I was to give at the reception, and I wanted to share it with them because I know that they do listen, and so they get a chance now to hear it because we didn't do another reception, which is just fine. So it said, this is the prayer that I would have said, and it goes like this. Our Father in heaven, we praise you and thank you for the celebration of matrimony between our son Taylor and our daughter Miranda. Father, we know a cord thrice braided together cannot be easily broken. Tate, Miranda, and you, Lord. Father, thank you for this day, for the eyes to see and ears to hear, as witnesses of the glory of your love for these two of your children. Let them not be unequally yoked, but stride together through sickness and health, riches and moments of poverty, along the path which you have prepared for them. May their hearts be open to your guidance. May their lives bear your signature for all to see in your honor. May this union bring forth children of health and a heart for your ways. Thank you, Lord, for this memory to decorate the halls of our reminiscence. Thank you for the greatest gift of all, your grace through Christ our Savior by faith. May all here tonight know it and believe on it. Just as the first miracle of his ministry came at the wedding in Cana, so here tonight be with us in our merriment, our feasting, and our imbibing in fellowship with one another and you, our Lord. Oh, and Lord, one more thing, that which I was asked to do in the first place. Thank you for, and may you bless this food. In your name we pray and we all say, Amen. And so that's the prayer that I would have said, but now you got to hear it. You got to hear it first, and you got to hear it just like you were there at the wedding. So feel free to use that if you wish. I think it's a good prayer, and that's what I now. You may notice that my voice is just a little bit different than some of the other episodes, and I will say that reception went on. We had a very good time. There was dancing. There was just a lot of joyous laughter and singing and storytelling and just camaraderie and being together. There was a photo booth and all kinds of wonderful things like that. And when I say dancing, like I will say, I did do some dancing. In fact, at one point in the reception, one of Tate's friends from high school did this amazing, well, it's his version of a little Russian dance. He's not Russian that I'm aware of. You know how you get down real low and you kick them, you put your arms in front of you and, you kick out in front of you and all that stuff. And so Josh was doing that dance and somebody told me about it. So then I felt compelled to challenge him in a way to a dance-off, which that led to a incredibly long DJ mix song of club type music that went on for, I feel, a long time. Like I was sweating profusely, and that got a lot of people involved, including one of Tate's old roommates from playing football at the Upper Iowa University, big lineman, who's like, he tells me in this circle of dancing that's going on, he's like, I'm going to pick you up on my shoulders. And I was like, I don't feel like that's a good idea because I'm just a shade over 200 pounds, maybe a shade over I'm a shade over 220 for sure. And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, can you do that? And he comes charging in, and I'm like, here we go. And by golly, that dude he's a big guy. I was way up in the air on his shoulders. I feel like he might have regretted that the next day, to be honest with you, because we were dancing and I'm on top. And I will tell you what, I was clenched. I was clenching with my feet around that guy. And as I sat on his shoulders like I was a toddler who weighs a lot more than a toddler. And man, it was scary and fun and funny. And I'm sure it was a moment that people, including myself, will not forget. And then just the dancing that went on with everybody. It was just fun and a lot of great times. And everybody had just a wonderful time. So it was just, it's a wedding reception, and then what can you expect? So, much fun there. And then after the reception was over, we did go back to the hotel, and that's where Tate and Miranda and pretty much everybody was staying. Not everybody, there's a lot of guests, but a lot of us were there at the same hotel, and they had a beautiful suite and had a patio, and we went up there and hung out together some more and smoked some cigars and told more stories. And I just ended up staying up till 4:00 nearly in the morning with my son Tate till the very end. And it was just very special and very late. And for that, I was very, very thankful. And I was also very, very tired because just a couple hours later, we were back up and going to brunch and giving them some gifts. And then we headed back north after a couple of other stops there in Kansas City. And so it was a long day yesterday, my friends. It was a long day, and I was very tired and drove all the way back. And to about halfway, when you get to the Des Moines mark, you're about halfway from where we live to Kansas City. And so at that time, I switched from listening to other podcasts and things like that to music off the Thompson playlist, of which we have many, and that allowed us to kind of sing along and stay awake for the last couple hours as we drove back home to Sunnyside here. But I do want to share this this speech that I gave so that you can hear that too. And it's going to sound different. I'll probably put a little bit of music behind this as we get started so you get like the full Sunny Side of Life effect or whatnot. But I won't announce it like I did at the reception, which was more like I was doing the PA for a football game to some degree. And that helped me get through it. But now in a calmer, quiet, personal setting, I can just record it in this way. I took a walk down memory lane recently to think on how best to share the love we have for our son Tate and our new daughter, Miranda. I saw a baby boy born to two young parents who were scared of the moment, hopeful of the future, and joyous in the occasion. I saw grandparents who were a wee bit surprised to have already earned that title, but full of love, support, and guidance. I saw a 2-year-old jam out, jumping on the coffee table, over to the couch, and then planting his feet superhero style on the floor to the blaring music of his favorite soundtrack at that time in his life, Hercules, a Disney movie whose title character was voiced by a dude named Tate Donovan, and the nickname stuck, Tate. And so did the merits of his favorite song from that show, Go the Distance. I saw a 3-year-old fly off a swing set from my rambunctious underdog onto a leaf-covered landing at the park in fertile Iowa, who got up in pain, complaining about his arm. And then he trundled along for 9 holes of golf at the par 30, diligently carrying his one club and trying to play with his dad and friends, only to learn a day later that his arm was just fine. But his collarbone was cracked. I watched a boy listen to what I thought were great lessons in life and wisdom, faith and politics, corny little jokes and stories about my childhood as we took those 2-hour road trips to Janesville, where we'd meet his mom to exchange for the weekend. I watched him stand up with his brother for me at my wedding to Heidi, who promised then to become his evil stepmother. A promise, by the way, which she has never delivered. I watched him move reluctantly into our home to finish high school, give us some of our greatest Fridays in football, the greatest of all which came that night against Clear Lake, where we won, beating them after a 17-year string of losses because he could not be tackled. And the paper the next day proclaimed that he was Tate the Great. I watched him go the distance in state track, chasing down his opponent on the blue oval relentlessly, and later give us the memory of passing that baton to his brother, Tanner. I watched him inspire his little brothers, Jack and Colin, in all things sports, in academics, and in character. I watched him walk away from me after a hug to join his new team, the Upper Iowa Peacocks. And I remember thinking, these guys are way too big. I wonder how he will make an impact. But he did, from his very first year. I watched him play with Tanner as a Peacock in all the games to which we traveled, but to this day, I can't recount any final score. But I will never forget the way in which he played the game. I watched him fall on the sideline his senior year, his knee blasted to bits as he returned the ball, and I remember seeing that same 3-year-old boy with a broken collarbone set his jaw and recover from that surgery, only to return to the field the next season, bigger, stronger, and even more determined. I remember meeting him at DT's Primetime Pub and Pizza with Alex, and this amazing blonde beauty whom I'd never seen before, and whom he didn't think to introduce me to. I thought she was with Alex because, well, after all, Tate had never mentioned a girl in his life, but then, when we sat down in one of those raggedy booths, Alex sat next to me, and she sidled up next to Tate. And that's when I met Miranda Lejeune. And I thought, man, I hope he marries this girl. I watched him graduate from college, go off to Chicago with Miranda to work, to study for the LSAT and gain acceptance to the University of Iowa Law School. He took his studies as if they were a new career in football, ever focused, ever determined, ever diligent, almost annoyingly so. I watched these two become a team, a championship team that had a plan and a path that has led them here to Kansas City, together, now forever as man and wife, a wife so beautiful and funny and genuine and patient. Oh, how she must be patient. One day, not long ago, I imagined Tate asking me how to be a good husband. And I would say, say you're sorry. And he'd say, for what? And again, I'd say, say you're sorry. And I'd imagine he'd say, geez, never mind. And as he turned to walk away, I'd tell him, Tate, if you want to be a good husband, you have to learn to say, I'm sorry. If you get that right, then the rest of it comes pretty easy. Now, we have 4 sons, which means, as we have said many times, one day we will have 4 daughters. And of course, Miranda is our first. And because she is our first, this makes her the OG. She will be able to help our future daughters navigate the Thompson family, our quirks and foibles, oddities and traditions, and help us to create so many more. She's the OG. What she says goes. Maybe we should call this our Miranda rights. Miranda can match Tate's competitiveness. If you've ever played against her in a board game, you know what I mean. She can talk shop about tractors and trailers and lift kits on trucks, and her crazy Jeep, which, by the way, has a vanity plate that says pineapple, a reference to the way in which she sometimes wears her blonde hair high atop her head. She told us once how she innocently kept getting honks and waves from strangers at traffic lights who saw her Jeep and her license plates. She waved back and wondered, what was that all about? Only to learn later that apparently the pineapple is a symbol of swinger culture, something she hadn't intended to promote at all. She loves her cat, Tori, and her dog, Duke, and her biggest pet of all, Tate. She brings laughter and light and love into our family and balance into the life of our boy. For this, we are eternally grateful and blessed. For those of us here in this room and for those who could not be here, let us lift this couple up. Let us support them, love on them, and be there for them in all which may come their way. And so I've come to the end of my walk along this lane and watched as these two have become one, a championship team in a championship town. May God bless you and keep you. May he turn his face toward you and give you joy and peace. And may we watch you both go the distance hereafter together. And as we say in the Thompson family, the cheer that echoes our strength and chills our opponents. Sayuda. So that's the that's the speech that I gave, and it was well received. And I'm happy to say that I'm glad I practiced that many times so that I didn't break down. And I'm actually pretty happy I didn't really break down at this reading of it as well. And now there it is, recorded and sent out into the ether for all time. And I'm glad I got to share that with you as part of the family of the sunny side of life. And so that certainly is an element of the sunny side of life. And what a great weekend. On our way down to Kansas City, we stopped in, where was that? Where did we stop? I think we must have stopped in Des Moines to get lunch, I think. And we stopped at a Chick-fil-A, like you do, because Chick-fil-A is an amazing it's just an amazing restaurant. It's an amazing chain. Of course, they're not open on Sundays because they love God, and they just do a great bang up job the other 6 days of every week. And so we stopped at Chick-fil-A and got some sandwiches. Now there they had people, it's always young men and women. They do a great job hiring people. They must be very selective. They always have a tremendous number of people on staff. They always look the way they're supposed to look. They've got their little Chick-fil-A outfits on. If you're in the drive-through, they're already standing out there. They're taking your order and your payment right there. They're not waiting for you to drive up. They're coming to you and meeting you, and then you just think that you're being treated like the best in the world. And then you finally get up to the window and everything seems like it went by pretty quickly. They hand you the correct order. It's always correct what's inside. You're never missing anything. And off you go and enjoy your Chick-fil-A meal. And it's wonderful. And that's just and so, I've got my sons, Jack and Colin, in the car with Heidi and I, and we're talking about this. Like, what a great, the people the kids, the whatever training program they have at Chick-fil-A to teach young people to be expressive and polite and courteous and on the spot and ready to go and professional to the degree that they can be, to look professional, to act a certain way, to never display a negative attribute while you're working for Chick-fil-A, because it's about the customer who's coming through and they're wanting to have that experience. They're expecting that experience. And by golly, you're not going to be the one to wreck that for any of them. And so they are just great employees. They're very well trained and they do just a wonderful job. And you can have that experience, I think, at every single Chick-fil-A, wherever it happens to be located, which is how it should be done. And Heidi, who hires a lot of people in her position, she would say, if we were talking about laughing, like if a kid, comes out of college, for example, not that you need a college degree to work for Heidi, but like if you had on your resume that you worked for Chick-fil-A for a year or two, and even if you had been advanced and promoted to some leadership role within that, in that time period at Chick-fil-A, I don't care what your university diploma says, because it's irrelevant in most cases. It's about that. Like she would say, yep, you're hired. Just count it as being you're hired, because you have the skills as a person to take care of customers and to represent your business for whom you're collecting that paycheck. You're going to represent them well. So parents, we don't have a Chick-fil-A here in town, and I hear one's coming nearby, but it's still like 30, 40 miles away. But what a great business, what a great model for leadership in the business community. I love the fact that they're not open on Sunday. I mean, granted, there's probably time that you'd like to have some Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. Too bad, Buster. They're closed because they have faith, and I think that's wonderful, and the world would be a better place if that was the case just about everywhere. So that is something that I admire, and if you're a parent and if you've got young people and you have a Chick-fil-A nearby, you should encourage them to go get a job and understand that only the best get those jobs at Chick-fil-A. That is awesome. So keep trying if they don't get it the first time, because I'm sure there's a waiting list. Now, to counteract that, we, on the way back from Kansas City, and we're tired, and we're just I've kind of lost my voice a little bit, and kind of Heidi and I are both fighting colds that we picked up, unfortunately, just before we went down there. And so we were, cold medicine and trying to not sound, I realize I probably sound stuffed up, and I am to some degree right now. And oh, Lord, I thank gosh I've got some some of the Bible in the Year stuff pre-recorded, but not much. So hopefully it doesn't sound, I can recover from this and be able to continue working through the book of Isaiah without sounding like I have a cold for all time. But anyway, neither here nor there. We're hungry, and it's kind of an odd time. It's probably like 2:00 in the afternoon. So we get to Bethany, Missouri. And I am calling them out because I do like a McDonald's. I like McDonald's. I like their fries. Their fries, I think, have changed. So they've changed something about the fries since I was growing up. I don't know what it is, but I still like their fries. I don't like the way McDonald's has now gone to the kiosk format, where you stand there and you order your stuff on a computer screen, and then they either bring it out to you or they call your number. Or I don't like that. I don't like it. It's not. It's just not cool. It's not cool, man. It's like going to the grocery store and checking yourself out, but you don't get an employee discount because you are using your self checking out. And you should, if I'm doing the work of employees, I should get an employee discount, in my opinion. Maybe they think I am, because that's how they keep their prices allegedly low at the grocery store, by not having to pay so many workers. But that's what's happening. Chick-fil-A's got no problem having all kinds of workers. They've got all kinds of people in the kitchen. They got the people standing outside taking your order, looking great, doing a wonderful job. And they've got a jam-packed full kitchen, and they're just constantly moving, and they're being efficient. And then you go to this particular McDonald's in Bethany, Missouri, and it's a bigger one, so and they're getting a lot of traffic from the interstate, and people probably stop there quite often. It was like 2:00 in the afternoon. So you're thinking, well, this is not like the lunch rush or whatever, but there were still a good number of people there. And you could just look at the people and you could tell that they were not enthusiastic about the wait that they had already experienced. But we went ahead and ordered from the kiosk anyway. So I guess McDonald's wins, long story short there. But, and it's just like, there's nobody at the front. Occasionally somebody will come out. You hear shouting in the background in the kitchen area. There's a screen now that shows you your number and where you're at in the queue. And they are so slow. I bet we were there for a half an hour before we got our food. And that's not how it used to be at McDonald's. McDonald's was that's the epitome of fast food. Like that's how they started. They were just fast. And McDonald's is now slow. They've got not great employees. They're clearly not very well trained. They do not care about the impression that they make about McDonald's or themselves. It's the complete opposite of Chick-fil-A. So I encourage all teenagers to get a job and to learn to work for somebody else. And I would hope that if they do that, that they have someone, whatever the business is that they're working in, that trains them well to take care of the reputation of the business which they represent. And we recognize that you're probably not going to make this a career. You're probably not going to be at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or wherever, the car wash, the grocery store, for the rest of your life. You may be. It may be a very good job for you. But the reality, while you're there, wherever you are, you need to put your best foot forward. And just when my first job was in radio, I was 16 years old and went out and wanted to have a cool job and realized that they did occasionally hire high school kids to be announcers on the radio. And that's back in the days when, you'd spin a record in 2 CDs. CDs were still fairly new then. So you'd have this stack of, songs that are a stack of, 2 CDs, one 145, 2 CDs, 145, all this. And that would be it would be off of a playlist that was printed, and you could pick and choose and kind of organize accordingly. But you also had to back time. So you had to know, like in your 60 minutes per hour, how many commercial breaks you were, how long those commercials were, and how many songs with weather and whatever announcements you had to make in the midst of that hour. I mean, we usually do weather, twice an hour or whatever back then. And and so you had to have the right number of seconds in your songs as they added up, and you had to be there, because if it stopped, when the CD was done or the record was done, you had to be fading into the next song. And that's how radio used to be. Now it's all automated. Now it's like they're not even there. They'll even record their stuff, like their weather, and they'll record their even their commentary. Like they'll record a lot of their commentary for the whole day, and they're not even there in the studio anymore. They'll say they're in the studio. They're making it up in a lot of radio stations. And it's just like, it's not the same thing. And that's automation. Okay. In your mind, you're listening to it. What difference does it make? You're hearing the news, you're hearing the weather, you're hearing the music, whatever it happens to be. All of that is just, it runs and is recorded, and it's, there's hardly anyone present. And I would say that that's the difference between like a Chick-fil-A and a McDonald's anymore. McDonald's is like hardly anybody's present. They're there, but not really, and I know that there are McDonald's that are really great. But it all comes down to, I think, to how whoever owns that particular franchise. It has to do with the leadership of the managers, the shift leaders, and things like that are involved. The expectations that the discipline that they inspire, where they're at. If you're a teenager, you need to absorb that, and you shouldn't make very much money, to be honest with you, because you're not worth that much. You don't know anything. You're not good at anything yet. You haven't been trained to do anything, and you should be competing. Because you are competing with your fellow coworkers, not in a nefarious way, not in like a presidential race. You are just competing with each other. And I want to put my best foot forward. I want to work hard. I want to be there early. I want to leave late. I want to be the person that is like the next person that's up for promotion. I want them to think of me, whether it's a promotion or a raise or whatever it happens to be. I have to earn that. That's called merit, and merit is something that is woefully missing. We have mistakenly led our children, so many of our children, and to believe that they enter with merit because they are breathing, and that is just not the case. You don't have, you have to prove your merit, and you have to show that you are a good worker. And the Bible says that you should work, whether it's you should work for your master. I know that's not a popular term now, but you're going to have a master. The master is either Christ or it's the world, and that's your master. You might think you're your own master. You are not. Nobody is, right? So you're a servant to somebody, and that you should work for that master as if you are working for the Lord himself. And so, if you're an accountant, or you're working at the grocery store, or you're fixing, tractors, or whatever it happens to be, every day, every moment, you should be working for the Lord. You should be working for your master as if you are working for Jesus himself. And how would that change our work? How would that change the entire wonderful television show, The Office? Because most of that is just about, relationships with people that really don't like their jobs, and there's just a lot of people that don't like their jobs. I've had a variety of careers and a variety of jobs, and I can tell you that, man, I didn't like all of them, but I grew up on a farm, so it really couldn't have gotten, much worse. Like, you're going to get poop on you. You're going to get blood. You're going to get cut. You're going to get hurt. You're going to have people yell at you because they want something to happen right now. It doesn't mean that they hate you. It just means, sometimes I guess it could, but I mean, most of the time it just means you need to do this right now, or you're being an idiot. So I was blessed, I guess, to be able to be raised on a farm and learn all of those things before I went out and worked in the fun, fairly low-paying career field of radio, and then all of the other things that I did in my life. I just took a lesson from every single job, or lessons from every career that I had, and applied them to the next thing that I was doing. And it's amazing that no matter what that career or that job was at the time, I learned something in every single job that I had. And because of that, I always had success in whatever career field I was in, which ultimately culminated, I guess, in retiring from the military as a first sergeant and doing those type of things that I did, and really enjoying it. But all of those things were stacked on top of each other. And I never regretted the experiences of knowing that I had worked in construction. So I am blue collar as I can get in that way. And I love it. I love being able to do things. Now I know how to do things. I'm not an expert. I'm not necessarily a craftsman yet. I think that's a lifelong, thing that you try to achieve in whatever you do. But whatever you do, do it well. Take the time to do it well. And there are so many people, particularly men, that I will point out that they just don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to fix stuff. They don't know how to do any plumbing. They don't know how to do anything about it with electrical. They don't know how to, take care of their own furnaces, and they don't know how to do stuff. Half the time, they don't know how to run a shovel, which is pretty basic skill set. It's great that you can do a spreadsheet, but we don't need you in the zombie apocalypse to be doing spreadsheets. And so that's something that we talk about in our family too quite a bit. It's a funny joke or whatever, but we reference it frequently. In fact, even this weekend we talked about it. My son Colin's like, well, you always talk about the zombie apocalypse. Like, it's not going to be a zombie apocalypse. And I'm like, it's just an analogy. It's like, I'm not an end timer or a prepper or any of that stuff, but I use the zombie apocalypse as a humorous way to say, if I'm hosting a guns out to the world during the zombie apocalypse, a fort here at Sunnyside, like, in order for you to gain entrance, you actually have to have a purpose. You have to have skills that we need. You have to be able to do something. Otherwise, honestly, like, we don't, if you're just going to be here to be protected, you got nothing. That's not how it works. And so I encourage my sons to be hard workers, to get after it, to walk with a sense of purpose, which is what we heard in the military all the time. How many times you see people just, wandering around? They got, no place to be and plenty of time to get there, and they don't walk with a sense of purpose because they probably don't have a purpose. Or sometimes they do have a purpose, but they're walking slow, or they're moving slow because they're trying to be cool. They don't want to seem too excited or too earnest, because I guess earnestness is, in modern culture, a bad thing. Well, they can go pound sand because they're going to get left behind. You're going to get left behind by the kid who has Chick-fil-A on her resume, period. You're going to work for that person because that person knows how to work better than you do. And that's merit. It's amazing. It's just great. And so that was a fun, weird, conversational round trip pro and con, but we had a conversation about that too, like, and it's fun to hear your kids talk about the difference between the McDonald's experience and a Chick-fil-A experience as we had this weekend. So if folks in Bethany are listening to this and they work at McDonald's, sorry, not sorry, get it together, figure it out, lean into it, move with a sense of purpose, represent those golden arches a little bit better. And so now, of course, I've rambled on long enough, but the other thing that happened on our way back, in case you haven't heard, for some reason you're still getting all your news from me, the president of the United States has determined that he's not going to run on the ticket anymore. He's stepped down from being the nominee for the Democrat Party. Joe Biden announced yesterday via a screenshot of a letter on his personal stationery that he posted on X, aka Twitter, and we really haven't heard, I haven't, at this point, to this recording, I haven't heard Joe Biden say it. I've seen the letter, and I'm sure he wrote it himself. I mean, because if there's one thing we know about Joe Biden when it comes to writing things, it's all original words that he came up with. I don't know that I haven't seen, so Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee, and I have some thoughts on that. I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on it, but here are my thoughts. Joe Biden shouldn't run for president. He's inept. He's incapable. And that is obvious. I think everybody in America knows that. I think that there's a lot of people that are in that administration that knew it quite a while ago. And I think there were a lot of people in the press that knew that quite a while ago. And in my opinion, they are all liable for a ruse. And ruse is the kind word. They were hiding a secret that wasn't very secret at all. And they would call you out if you pointed out the fact that he didn't seem like he was sentient at all times. And now they're acting surprised and they're trying to get him off the ticket. And it has nothing to do with health or COVID or any of that stuff. And it certainly wasn't God saying, Joe, don't run. I don't think that Joe's been listening to the word of God for a long time. I think what it is that there's just no way he can win at all. And I don't think that even bothers him so much, because I think that he's the kind of person that would run. He still probably thinks he can. That's why until I see him say it, I'm not sure that he knew what he was signing. I think somebody else wrote that letter, said, Joe, why don't you go ahead and sign this? This is the next ice cream order here at Rehoboth. And then just go ahead and sign it. And he's like, oh, okay. And it's like, oh, by the way, you're not running. And then every day they have to tell him something that new has happened anyway. And he's like, oh, you're not running for president. Do you remember that? Oh, yeah. I don't know how far gone he actually is, but I think it's interesting. It was released in a letter that I'm certain that he didn't pen, even though it was on his stationery. So it seems the whole thing is what it is that he couldn't win the presidency. Everybody knew that, and so now and that was starting to affect people down ticket, and the powers that be in the Democrat Party, that made sure that Bernie Sanders had no way to the presidency back in 2016 or 2020. The people that the powers that be that tell you that they're a Democratic platform, they're going to go ahead and keep it open to the people and all of that stuff. The powers that be that are going to select the president and and anoint whoever that person happens to be. That same group decided that this was too dangerous and we need to shift. We need to, change horses midstream, so to speak. And they did, which I think was the right decision. They should have done it a long time ago. People have been referencing, when LBJ decided back in March of '68 that I'm not going to run for president anymore. I will not accept and I will not seek the endorsement or the nomination of president from the Democrat Party. That's all fine. He did it so they had a time so they could actually, try to get things together. So they had way more time than what Joe gave them. Their convention is just in a couple of weeks, and that'll be in Chicago. So that's actually the same place that they had it in 1968, and that turned out really well. They named Triple H, not the wrestler, but the Hubert H. Humphrey. They had a Metrodome named after him and all that stuff, but he didn't win the presidency. So we'll see what happens. It's probably going to be, it sounds like it could be, or at least Joe Biden has endorsed, allegedly. We don't know who controls Joe's Twitter. Okay, I'm sure he's not thumbing his Twitter. But whereas you're pretty sure that Trump actually was doing that. Like you can, from previous administration, he was definitely doing his own Twitter. Probably shouldn't have been. But regardless, it looks like it's going to be Kamala Harris, the vice president, she's got the keys to the kingdom for the $100 million that they've got in the Biden campaign. The same group that the would-be assassin against Trump, that kid that he donated to, even though he was registered Republican. He donated to the group called Act Blue. Act Blue is back in action. And then once the announcement came out miraculously, they raised, it was like $50 million pretty quick. So a lot of people starting to give. We'll see how the donors do for the Democrat Party. I'm sure they'll get in line like they always do, and they'll raise that money. But Kamala Harris, if she's the one that's the nominee, she spent a ridiculous amount of money on her own campaigns and various other things that she's kind of been, fallen into success-wise. I don't think that she's unintelligent. I think she's just an incredibly unlikable person, and has a hard time, just is missing the people skills that is, we'll find out. We'll see. I think that'll come to bear its own fruit. But talk about absence of merit. I know that people will argue that she was the Attorney General of California, and that she was the district attorney in San Francisco, and she was a senator, and now she's vice president, and all of these other things. But I think that the Democrats, they've got a real problem. We'll see how it works out. I did an episode a few weeks ago, beware of the relief pitcher. If the relief pitcher is Kamala, I don't know if she trends better than Biden does against Donald Trump. But now the argument could be, I suppose, that like we have a 59-year-old lady and she's a woman, and we now know what a woman is, and she's also a person of color. So that matters if you're a Democrat, because it checks certain boxes. And also she loves abortion. So that's great. And we're going to make abortion the key issue. And I think that that's a terrible thing to run on. Like, that's what you're going to run on is infanticide. You're going to run on that. That's that's your choice. Come on, Moloch. That's the worst. But we'll just see. We'll see how she expresses herself. I know she can handle herself to some degree in a debate. That's practice, rehearsed, scripted, and things like that, off the cuff. We'll see how many times she does her weird laugh. Trump will have to button some things up and get a little bit more specific. I had no worries that J.D. Vance would annihilate the word salad that Kamala Harris brings to the table on a regular basis if she had remained the VP person. Trump, on the other hand, is going to be more of an equal fight in that regard, because he can't stay on topic and goes off in his different directions and avoids specifics and makes wild claims. And she tells weird stories and helps us understand what space is, like we're all children, which I think is kind of how she thinks of the general electorate. However, there is also a concern. So I will just sum that whole situation up with, speaking of, like, if you're going to make abortion your primary cause to avoid things like, border, inflation, national security, world relations, et cetera, et cetera. Good luck with that. Trump has turned pretty moderate on that as well. And I don't think anybody is looking at Donald Trump and his background and his history and go, oh, he's probably anti-abortion. I don't think that that's something that is real evident, unfortunately, in my opinion, in that regard. But since abortion includes the controversial Plan B pill, so you decide that maybe I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I decided to be pretty crazy last night. I'll just take this pill and then I won't have a baby for sure out of this situation that occurred, the one-night stand pill, the Plan B pill, so you can terminate your pregnancy on your own. And I think what just happened to the Biden campaign is he got the ultimate Plan B pill. That is what the Democrat Party has just done, is they Plan B flushed Biden right out of the race. And so now he's going to spend the next 6 months pretending to still run the country. I think the Republicans are wasting their time and breath and energy and focus by talking about the 25th Amendment. That's just not going to happen. I think that they're wasting their time getting into, if he's not competent to run as president, then he's not competent to be president. I understand where you're coming from, but it's a waste of time. Get your applesauce scooped up here, because this is dumb. Focus on winning the election if that's what you want to do. But Republicans are notorious for taking a perfectly easy win and turning it into a loss, which they do all the time. So we'll see what happens with that, but I don't think that there's a lot of traction on getting Joe Biden to step down, resign from the presidency. And I don't think that Donald Trump's campaign is particularly interested in that either. They might say it, and maybe they will be. I don't know. J.D. Vance has been pretty strong about saying like he should step down for the presidency. Okay, like I get it, but you're wasting your time. Focus on the election is what you should be doing, because if you think that the folks that got Biden into that office are going to go along with getting him out of that office, the only advantage would be that it would cost Trump more money, because he's been doing 47 now, because he was 45. Biden's 46. He's got all of his new hats that say "Make America Great Again" that have the 47 embroidered on the side. Well, technically, if Biden steps down, I can't believe anybody hasn't thought of this already, that then Kamala Harris becomes 47. Yeah. So think of your brand. Think of your brand, people. You want Kamala Harris? Because even if she didn't get elected again, which I think I think Trump still has the advantage to some degree on that. But you never know what'll happen in November. Like I said, watch out for that relief pitcher. But if Biden stepped down, like if that's what the Republicans focus their time on right now, like morons, then they would make Kamala Harris number 47 and Trump would be 48. Well, that doesn't even matter. It matters to the old dude that like sent in his $22 and got a hat or whatever to have to spend to get one of those hats. I don't even know. And he's got a 47 on there now. He doesn't know. What can he do with that? Make America great again with Kamala Harris, the 47th president? Tough. Got to think of these things. And, if the Trumps know how to do anything, it's how to brand. So you think that they're probably not going to be too worried about getting Joe Biden to step down. However, it's going to be, I think, fairly obvious. I think it has been fairly obvious, at least since the end of June when they did that terrible debate. And that's really what kicked Joe's butt. There was a situation where, the rest of the world knows that they've got a small window here to do whatever nefarious things that they are going to try to get away with. And so it's a very potentially tumultuous time. So as I said back in January, and I'm going to get it right this time, watch Taiwan, see what China does there. Keep in mind that Russia and Putin is still doing their nonsense in Ukraine, and we'll see what advantages they try to get for themselves in the short months remaining before the new president, because we know it won't be Joe Biden. So he is now a lame duck president. Keep an eye out for Iran, obviously, and what will North Korea do? So there are some major players that are out there still potentially doing some nefarious things and waiting for their moment in the sun, so to speak. And now we have a lame duck president. Whether he remembers that or not, that's the case. And so we'll see how the next several months go. And we need to all be praying for the health and wellness of our president, Joe Biden, and for our leaders our elected leaders in Congress and in the Senate. And just it's a crazy time. I don't think that the Democrat convention is going to be entirely peaceful. I think that there's going to be there were riots in 1968. They held it in Chicago. That was over Vietnam. Now it's going to be about Israel and Hamas and who knows what else. I don't know that they will go quietly into that good night and just assume that it's going to be Vice President Harris as their top of the ticket person now. There might be some things going on. I guess we'll find out. It will be interesting to see a real convention if they decide to have an open convention and how that goes. But all of those things are being discussed by other people that are better at it than me. My observations are limited to how you're going to change that number on your red hat if Biden steps out of office. And, merit matters. And I don't think that Kamala Harris, in my opinion, has ever exhibited any true merit in any regard whatsoever. So, but it doesn't matter because there's still a lot of people that don't like Donald Trump, even though he had the cool action hero photograph that is going to remain, in part of our history forever. Even what's his name? Zuckerberg was like, that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool image. A lot of men feel that way. Don't know how women are going to feel. A lot of people, even if they, go to church and pray on Sunday, still love the idea of terminating pregnancies for convenience. And that's really what people hate the most is they always, people always bring up the argument about, abortion is like, well, what if you were raped or incest or all of those things are terrible. And then they come up with, incredibly rare pregnancy issues that, could cause problems. And then the life of the mother obviously is very important, I think, to everybody, of course. Those are teeny tiny examples. And I always am looking for the incestuous people to be in jail. So if it's incest, then why isn't that person in jail? And if it's rape, that person should definitely be in jail, right? Like we're doing that. I mean, if we're going to commit murder in one degree to an innocent because that had nothing to do with the crime of the father in that particular case, then at least the father should be in jail, all right? And so we need to be doing that. That might change some things, Can you prosecute those types of situations to justify that abortion? I don't know. I don't think anybody talks about that, so it doesn't probably matter to anybody. But I think what really irritates people, what people, even people who are still for, abortion just whenever you want, it still, I think, rubs people the wrong way for the matter of convenience. And I didn't turn this into a subject on abortion at all, but this too boils down to you either have a faith in God that God will provide, and that the gifts that we receive, which include the ones we didn't think we wanted, that they truly are gifts from God for us. And that when we have faith that we can endure this too with the grace of God, then amazing things can happen. And so I think what we just really show is an absence of true faith in God. And you can't require people to have true faith because most people don't. So it's what would you expect from a secular world? But that absence of faith in God. So if you don't have faith that God is going to take care of you, if God gave you this child as a gift, no matter how it was received in the first place, or conceived, I should say, your opinion on the value of that life is going to be vastly limited anyway, because your understanding of life is vastly limited. So that is unfortunately maybe the problem there, but we'll see. I don't know. This whole thing is a rambling experience that started out with a joyous conversation about, my son and my new daughter, getting married, having Tate and Miranda, betrothed, and a wonderful weekend. And then just wonderful experiences. It's good for our kids to be able to see the oldest brother do things right, and to get things right, and to have this wonderful experience and this relationship that we all get to be a part of now as a big family. That's awesome. And so we are, in the same way, one great big darn family in America. And whether we like all of our relatives, maybe we don't see each other very often, maybe we get snipey on social media with each other, maybe when we meet in person, we can be kind, we can be loving, and we can celebrate the moments that we have, and we can be grateful that we didn't have a successful assassination attempt against President Trump, or former President Trump, and we can mourn together the loss of life in Corey Compatore, and we can celebrate together the electoral process, whatever it happens to be. And all anybody wants, I think, I can't speak for everybody, so I'll just say all I want is I want a fair election. I want a fair election between two candidates who can express an honest, forthright, value-based, whatever your values happen to be, agenda. And hopefully, whatever comes in the next couple of weeks, and the world is twisting at a crazy speed, but nothing that has not been seen by God himself, that all of this too will work out in the end. And that is the sunny side of this life. Whoever is elected in November, and we'll obviously talk about it again in the future, more and more, regardless of whether Joe Biden is running and he is not, or whoever replaces him, and we'll find out who that will ultimately be and what the election results end up being. We can be thankful that we are a nation. That means brothers and sisters in arms, and we can have differing opinions about all kinds of things, and that's okay. It's all right. And my hope for everybody is that they put their eyes on God and do their due diligence as citizens, and I think the rest will work out just fine. So I had a great weekend. I've got a little weird voice right now, a little bit of a cold left over, but maybe by next week we'll have more crazy things to talk about, and maybe some crazy guests. We'll see if they're actually crazy. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Either way, let's take this opportunity to say, praise God, be the sunny side of somebody else's life. We'll see you next week.
I want to thank all our friends and guests for stopping by for this episode of The Sunny Side of Life. All the Sunny Side of Life players who stopped by, creative support provided every day by my incredible wife Heidi and our fantastic 4 boys. Thanks to every one of our listeners. That means you. A big shout out to my brothers and sisters in uniform holding the line around the world. Share the word, folks. Let the people know what we're up to. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow us on social media. All skits are written or adapted and directed by me, Troy Thompson, and are produced here at Sunnyside Farm Studios and delivered to all platforms by Buzzsprout. Music and sound effects are provided by Soundstripe. The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. Now, none of this is possible without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life, liberty and pursuits, be in Christ, and made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.